Hey guys, it's me. I know it's been a while, but I'm back with another tutorial. This one should be pretty quick, pretty easy. And what we're going to be talking about is being able to make an object turn towards, in this case, the mouse, but really any sort of direction that you want. But first off, we need to create just a sort of object. Now this is in a project that I was working on a long time ago, that eventually turned into the game that I have out now on Steam, which is called Symphonic Mayhem. You should look it up. The link is going to be in the description. It's only $8. You should get it and tell all of your friends and family, please. That would be great. Thank you. But basically, there's a bit of an issue when we want to just do this normally. So I'm going to go ahead and make just a regular object to what we'd normally want to do, or what you normally do to do something like that. Because basically, we'll just have an object. We have like which direction it's facing, and then its turn speed. So if we go in our step event here, we would just simply say if. And actually, one thing we might want to do is we want to say, like, we can call it something else. Like in this point, in our case, we can call it like mouse dir, because it's going to be our mouse that we want to be pointing it to. But we can just say point direction, if I can spell, x, y, mouse underscore x and mouse underscore y. And I also got to remember to go ahead, and I'm pretty sure I've learned how to, whoa, that's not correct. I learned how to do it at some point. Increase the font, at least I thought I did. But we can go ahead. We should be able to do it here anyways. Okay, so we have we have a big old thing here. So hopefully everybody can see that. I'll go ahead and make this full screen. But if we start with something like that, because then what we want to do is we have which direction that we're facing, right? So we want to say if mouse dir is greater than dir is in which direction dir, right? Then we want to go dir plus equals turn speed, right? And same thing else if mouse dir is less than dir, we want to go dir is less than or equal to turn speed, right? This is what like you think you need to do. If we go in here, we want to give this a sprite, and I'll just give it the tank and whatever, and then we can go ahead into our draw event and just say draw sprite. Go ahead and make this full screen as well. But you know, we want sprite, and actually we want to do ext, so we can just say sprite index image index x y 1 1. Rotation we want to be dir. Color we want to be c underscore white, and alpha we want to just be 1. So you can take a look at that for a second to make sure you got that down. So if now we go ahead, and if I go into the room here, just like I said, this game really doesn't have anything to do with like the tutorial itself. It's where I've done this before in the past. But if we put our test tank in there, and we go ahead and we run the game, hopefully there should be any errors or anything like that. But of course, this can apply to anything. So it works, right? Because like, you know, like we move the mouse and it has to like kind of turn towards it. That's what we want to do. The only problem comes that when we go over here, you see it turns like the other direction. When we pass the 0 angle, you see the tank kind of flip-flops its direction, and that's not what we want in a game. And also you can see it's kind of like going back and forth really quick, because like it's going past the angle over and over again because of the turn speed. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fix these things so that our tank, or whatever it is that you have that you want to be turning towards the mouse at a certain speed, you won't have these issues. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've accomplished this here, so I'm just going to go ahead and go over the the things we've done before, or the code I have in here already. So all you need still, if you can ignore most of this, and you just want a direction, dir, right, and then your turn speed. Now I've set these in different ways, but of course your dir will probably just be 0 because it'll be changed regardless. Your turn speed, of course, you want to alter that to be whatever works for your game or whatever you're working on. In this case, I just have it as the tank's movement speed times 1.5 because I guess I've tested that out and found that works best. But all you need is dir and your turn speed for this function to work. And actually, we don't need this. We need the tank basic. Yep, there we go. So what we're gonna do is this, and instead of typing it out, I'm just gonna kind of just go over it. Is that just like we did in our test tank, right? We had in our step we had our var mouse dir, right? We have the same thing here. So if we go ahead, and this is the same thing right here, so we can make this a var if we want. But the main difference here is that we have our point direction, x and y, and mouse underscore x and mouse underscore y, like we did in the other one. But what we're doing is that we're subtracting our current direction from it. Because essentially what we're doing is that instead of making the 0 value always to be, and I guess for your guys' case, it's going to be this way, if that's right. No? I don't know. I think it'll be this way. Regardless, the 0 degrees for the angles in Gamemaker is going to be to the right. And so essentially what we're doing is that when we minus what direction our tank is facing from the direction that we want to be turning towards, it essentially turns which way our object is facing to be the 0 value, if that makes sense. And in fact, we can go ahead and we can do it in Paint if we want to. We have our object. In this case, it's our tank, right? Boom, boom, boom. Now normally, and I'll do this in red, our 0 will be here, right? Normally that's our 0 degrees. And let's say our mouse, and I'll go ahead and make it orange. Why not? Our mouse, right, is right there. And let's say this is, just for the sake of ease, that's 135. So it's like directly in between, right? And let's say our tank is facing 45. So what we're doing is we're taking our mouse angle and subtracting our current facing angle from it. So in this case, 135 minus 45 equals 90, right? Because the difference between these two angles is 90. That's essentially what we're doing. It's because then, if we go ahead, where's the eraser? I don't use Paint like ever. So basically what that then does is that it turns, because we're getting a 90 from that, because this angle then becomes 90, right, from our equation. This relatively, then by relative, becomes 0, right? Which is good, because now this angle, this static angle, doesn't have any bearing on our program. So now we can kind of essentially get rid of that. So now wherever the mouse is, it will either be on this side, like it'll either be, and actually what we're going to do is that we're going to add 180 to it later. Make a little 180 right there. And so wherever the mouse is, we're going to get that value. And it's going to be relative to which way the tank is facing. So basically, we're going to be able to say if it's less than 180, then we're going to turn that way. And if wherever the mouse is, so if the mouse is over here, right, then this will be considered 270, we'll say. So then we're going to say, but if wherever the mouse is greater than 180, then we'll turn that way. And so essentially this gets rid of flip-flopping weird directions to try and get to where we need to go, because it's all relative based off of where the tank already is and doesn't get kind of restricted by the static 0 degrees that's built into Gamemaker. So that's what we're going to be doing here. And I hope that made a little bit of sense. So very first off, we want to get with our degrees on where our mouse is relative to our new sort of angles from the tank. Or in our case, the tank. So we're going to get this number by going the point direction of the mouse minus the direction we're already facing. Now, first off, what I have here is that if this angle is greater than 0, or I mean if mouse, like our mouse angle, is less than 0, then to add 360 degrees to it. And in fact, I don't think it'll make much of a difference, but we can also say the opposite. If mouse is greater than 360, we can say mouse minus equals 360. This just makes sure that it's within 0 to 360 at any given moment, because subtracting dir from it could cause like some negative numbers and stuff like that, which would not be what we want, because then it will want to turn the other way and anyways like that. So we want to kind of put this in here to make sure that, and in fact we can even say else if, to make sure that whatever number that we're wanting to go towards is between 0 and 360 pretty much. So what we got here is, and I'm going to go ahead and space this out like I normally do. I space out my things a little bit differently than most programmers, so those of you who've seen other videos know that this is kind of how I like to space out my brackets. And of course you can format your programming however you like. This is just the way I like it, and I stick with it. So basically we're trying to say if mouse is not 0, so basically if there's actually somewhere to go, then because we've already done the math for it, we can just say if where we want to turn is less than or equal to 180, we can say direction plus equals turn speed, or it will turn, let's see, that'll be counterclockwise. And then we can also put an else here if we want to as well. We can say otherwise, if the mouse or where we want to turn is greater than 180, which is of course based off of our new sort of degrees with our tank, then we will say dir minus equals our turn speed, which is clockwise to wherever we want to go. This is the same sort of thing right here. Is that, in fact, I want to go ahead and I want to make this minus equals, because this is pretty old code. So, so I want to kind of fix it. But this is like on the same lines to make sure that our direction that we're facing is also just in between 0 and 360 to keep things nice and easy. So we have this little bit of code here that says if whatever the direction that we're facing is greater than 360, then we'll go ahead and just subtract the 360 from it. Because whichever way our guy is facing is going to stay the same, but it's just more of a convenience or a formality within our programming that we want to make sure that it always stays between 0 and, I guess in this case, 359 or something like that. But otherwise, if whichever way we're facing is less than 0 degrees, we want to add 360 on it to make sure that we're not going anywhere negative either. Just to make sure things are clean and they make sense. And I'll give this some spacing right here. Now, what this is going to do right here is make sure that we get rid of that little thing that we saw where our tank was like jittering back and forth really fast, so it was kind of facing like in both directions at once really quickly, is because each time it turns, it overshoots what direction that it wants to be facing. So every single step it's flipping back and forth to try and reach there, but it never will. So to counter that, we want to make sure that whichever direction that we're facing, like in order to actually turn, the distance between where we are and where we're going has to be at least greater than our turning speed. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and face that direction, just so that we don't flip-flop, and just to make things more accurate if there's any sort of shooting involved or anything like that. So what we have here is that we have if, and then ABS for absolute value, and then in our brackets we'll have point_direction, and in those brackets we'll have X and Y, mouse_X and mouse_Y, minus dir. In fact, we've already done this calculation before, so I don't know why I have it like this. We can instead just substitute that for mouse, because we've already done that. So basically now what we can say, if the absolute value between where the mouse is less than our turning speed, we can go ahead and say that our dir, like whichever direction that we're facing, can just flat out point to the mouse with point_direction with a bracket X, Y, mouse_X, and mouse_Y, like you see here. So this is basically saying, yeah, if the distance we need to go is less than our turning speed, then we'll just go ahead and face whichever direction we're supposed to be facing directly. So that way we don't get that jittering motion. It'll just go flush with where we are. And if it goes greater than our turn speed, it'll then just use our turn speed to try and get there. Now, we've done this a little bit differently before. If you want, you can have your image angle equal direction that you're facing to make it so whatever object you're using turns. But if you want to do it like this, you can also do the same thing where you can just use your draw sprite and then plug in the direction of where you're facing right there. I would suggest this way, because image angle it'll mess with like your collision sprite if you're relying on collisions and stuff like that a lot. So I'd recommend this way, so that to make sure that you have like some sort of collision sprite or something like that doesn't get affected when you just so you don't like turn and then get like stuck in something you're supposed to be colliding with or something like that. I would suggest this way. But if your game is sort of set up differently, of course you can use image angle to plug in whichever direction that you're facing. This is different stuff that has to do with the game. So really what you want is this part right here, and I'll go through and I'll kind of pause it right here if you want to copy it down just to make sure you got everything. And then I'll just kind of scroll down a little bit. We only need like that much. But now what we can do is I'll go ahead and I'll go inside the room, and of course the object I'll put in has a lot more properties and stuff like that, but this is what we've done, is that now using this new programming we can turn whichever way we want. So if we see, now it doesn't matter where we go, our object, in this case a tank, will find the quickest way it wants to get there. And you see there's like that jittery motion's not there. It's very clean and whatnot. So, and in this case, I use it to go forward and backwards and stuff like that. So this of course is useful for any sort of like turrets, and like I said, it's not even, you can replace the mouse_X and the mouse_Y if we go through our programming. And in fact we need to go to our tank basic here, which has the actual programming. Like for instance, instead of this being like the mouse and the Y, you could make this like an enemy's coordinates. You can make it anything you want. So you can do your own programming to figure out what exactly angle, like to figure out the angle that you want to be turning to, and then the rest of it can figure out how to get there. So I hope this was helpful. I hope I didn't mess around too much like I usually do. And I know I say this pretty much every time, but I want to get programming a lot more and put a lot more tutorials out. It's hard because I never really felt like doing anything. So hopefully, though, if I can get myself to start doing this, that you guys can enjoy it, and then I can enjoy it as well. So yeah, also, if you want to help support me, I have my game on Steam called Symbiotic Mayhem. I mentioned it before, kind of jokingly, but yeah, I will put a link in the description for that. If any of you are interested in checking that out, I do update it and stuff like that. So all sorts of feedback is appreciated because, I always want to make the game good and make it better. Also, don't forget that you can send me projects or things like that because I want to get together. I want to kind of put together a sort of community showcase so you guys can send me programs or games that you're proud of and that you want to show off in later videos. And I have an email in the description of this video as well that you can send those projects to. And I think that's it. So thank you so much for watching. Do all the YouTube stuff with the with the liking and all that crap. Always remember to have a complete breakfast, and I'll see you next time. Adios.